everyone, Miss Susan here, and I have for you Chapter 5 of the Magic Treehouse series book, Midnight on the Moon. We last heard from Jack and Annie, and they had encountered a moon buggy and gone all over the moon, we think, but we're about to find out. However, before that, what did they do? They jumped around like space rabbits, moon bunnies, moon rabbits, space bunnies. I know I would do that too if I were on the moon. Sounds like fun to me. But when we finished Chapter 4, the last few lines said the buggy zoomed out of the crater. Gray clouds of dust rose behind them as they took off across the moon. And that brings us to Chapter 5, Hang On. Annie drove the moon buggy over bumps and hollows, and it bucked like a bronco. I'm going through there. She pointed to an opening between two mountains. Jack held onto the dashboard. The buggy bumped toward the opening and shot through, and on the other side, the ground was even rockier. Look for the fourth M thing, said Annie, bouncing up and down. Jack groaned. Looking for anything in this thing was impossible. Slow down, he said. How? Try pressing on the brake pedal on the floor, slowly. Annie pressed on the brake. The buggy slowed down. Jack sighed with relief. The ride was still bumpy, but now at least he could get a good look around at the moon. He had never been to such a colorless, barren place. There was no green, there was no blue, there was no red, no water, no trees, no clouds, only giant gray rocks and craters and an American flag. Here's a picture. Oh man, said Jack. That's from the first astronauts who landed on the moon. And look, a telescope, said Annie. She drove near the flag and telescope, put her foot on the brake until the buggy stopped, pressed a button, then said off, and then she and Jack hopped out. They took slow, giant steps to the site of the first moon landing. Beside the flag was a sign. Annie read it out loud. Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind. That's a good message, said Jack. He handed the moon book back to Annie. Then he took out his notebook and his pencil to copy the sign. Let's leave our own message, said Annie. What should we say, said Jack. The same thing, said Annie, but say we are the first kids. Jack turned to a new page in his notebook. In big letters, he wrote their message. Now we have to sign it, said Annie. Jack signed his name. Then he passed the notebook and pencil to Annie, who signed her name and passed the notebook back. Jack tore out the piece of paper. He placed it right next to the flag. Here's what their note looked like. It says, Today the first kids from the planet Earth came to the moon. We came in peace for all children. Jack and Annie. No wind would ever blow that message away. No rain would ever fall on it. It would be there forever unless someone moved it. Thinking of forever made Jack feel dizzy. He shook his head to clear his thoughts. Then he remembered the time. Had 2 hours passed yet? I wish I had a watch, he said. Standing up, we might be running out of time. Oh, wow, said Annie. A moon man. What? Jack turned to look at her. She was staring through the telescope. Jack walked over to the telescope. Annie stepped aside so he could look too, and he gasped. In the distance, something was flying above the ground. It looked like a giant man in a spacesuit. That's the end of Chapter 5, and here's a picture of the giant man in the spacesuit. Are you guys looking forward to Chapter 6? It's coming up soon. Make sure to check our Kinderlime account or email Miss Susan if you are interested in the follow-ups and can't find them. We know it's a lot of communication going back and forth, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction if you need them. You guys that are listening to this story, I can't wait to read the next chapter to you. Let me know what you think. I'd love to see what you think is going to happen next. Could be anything. See you later.